Ethan Blake had always been different from the other humans in the Orion Belt. While most mechanics preferred to work on standard freighters or follow routine repairs, Ethan was drawn to old, broken, and abandoned machines. There was something about a starship left to rot that called to him, a challenge that no one else dared take. The derelict starship named Ardent had been drifting near a small asteroid field for decades. Alien races whispered stories about it. They said the ship's systems were cursed, that anyone who tried to enter it would face accidents or even disappear. Salvage crews had tried, but the ship always remained untouched, floating silently in the dark space like a giant forgotten tomb. Most humans who heard about it avoided it. Ethan, however, saw it differently. To him, it was not a ghost ship or cursed vessel. It was a machine that needed care, skill, and patience. He believed that no ship was beyond repair if someone knew what to do, and he knew what to do. The Salvage Fleet's council was hesitant at first. "Ethan, no one else has succeeded. This ship is dangerous," said Commander Lauren, a tall, gray-haired man who had seen countless failed salvage attempts. "We cannot risk your life for something that might not even move again." Ethan smiled. "Commander, I am not like others. I don't rely only on machines. I can feel what a ship needs. I want to try." After long discussions and some protests, the council finally gave in. Ethan was allowed to take a small crew and board the Ardent. The other crew members were a mix of humans and aliens, chosen for their experience in salvage, but none shared Ethan's enthusiasm. Most were cautious, looking at the starship with fear and suspicion. The journey to the derelict was quiet. The asteroid field was dense, and sensors picked up small debris floating in space. Ethan's crew worked silently, checking their equipment, but Ethan hardly looked at them. His eyes were fixed on the dark shape ahead, floating in the emptiness like a sleeping giant. The closer they got, the larger the ship appeared. Its hull was scratched and dented, and several panels had fallen off, leaving parts of the ship exposed. Ethan could see that the starship had once been a large battle cruiser built for speed and firepower, but now it looked weak and abandoned. When the ship's docking bay finally came into view, Ethan felt a thrill he could not describe. He ordered the crew to prepare for boarding. The small transport ship approached slowly, and Ethan's heart beat faster with excitement. As they entered the docking bay, silence filled the air. The inside of the Ardent was dark and cold. Dust and rust covered every surface, and the air smelled faintly of metal and decay. Lights flickered as Ethan activated his portable scanner, revealing layers of damage throughout the ship. "This place is worse than I thought," muttered Jalen, one of the human crew members, shaking his head. "How are we supposed to fix anything here?" Ethan did not answer immediately. He walked slowly, running his hands over control panels, touching broken pipes and checking the engines from a distance. His eyes moved with care, observing every detail. "It's not as bad as it looks," he said finally. "This ship still has its bones. If we work carefully, we can bring it back." Some aliens on the crew hissed and muttered among themselves. They did not like the smell of decay and felt uneasy in the quiet halls of the ship. One of them, a small, insect-like engineer named Kale, said nervously, "Humans are strange. You feel comfort here. There is nothing but death inside this vessel." Ethan smiled faintly. "It is not dead, not yet. Wait and see." The first days were slow and careful. Ethan and his team worked on basic systems, lighting, life support, and structural checks. The ship groaned and creaked under its own weight, and every step seemed to echo endlessly through its hollow corridors. Ethan preferred to work alone most of the time. He had a small kit of human tools he carried with him, wrenches, arc welders, diagnostic pads, and he often spent hours examining a single panel or pipe. While the aliens relied on precise automated devices, Ethan trusted his hands and instincts. He could feel when a piece of machinery wanted to move or when a wire would fail. One evening, after hours of examining the engines, Ethan sat down in the main control room. The walls were covered in dust, and broken screens hung loosely from their mounts. He looked around and let himself imagine what the ship had been. He pictured the battle stations filled with humans and aliens working side by side. He imagined the engines burning with power, the weapons glinting, and the starship moving faster than any ship in the Orion Belt. That vision gave him energy. He knew that if he could bring this machine back, it would be more than a ship. It could be a legend. The next day, Ethan started work on the power core. It was heavily damaged, and the old wiring had corroded in the vacuum of space. He carefully removed sections of the core, cleaning them, and replacing parts with new ones he had brought from his own storage. He created hybrid circuits that combined human designs with salvaged alien technology. His methods were unconventional, and some crew members watched nervously. "You are taking risks," Jalen said. "If that core blows, we're all dead." Ethan looked up calmly. "Every great machine needs care. You cannot just follow manuals and expect miracles. You have to understand it." As days turned into weeks, the crew began to see changes. Lights stayed on longer, air circulation improved, and the ship's power systems began to hum softly. The Ardent responded to Ethan's touch in a way no other mechanic had reported. Even the alien crew members began to admit quietly that the ship was alive again. Ethan often explored parts of the ship that others avoided. He went into cargo bays filled with debris, climbing over broken crates and twisted metal. He checked the weapon systems, noting which parts could be repaired and which could be replaced entirely. He even repaired small drones that had been left inactive for decades. One afternoon, while crawling through the maintenance tunnels, Ethan found the navigation core. It had been heavily damaged, and most salvage crews had considered it hopeless. But Ethan could see the potential. He carefully removed broken components and replaced them with human designs that allowed the system to think in new ways. "This will not just bring the ship back," he said to himself quietly. "It will make it stronger than it ever was." The alien crew started to notice changes in Ethan too. He moved with confidence, often speaking softly to himself as if the ship understood him. Kale, the small insect-like engineer, began to watch with curiosity instead of fear. Even Jalen started asking Ethan questions about his methods, learning how humans could improvise and create solutions others would not think of. As the Ardent slowly stirred, strange things began to happen. Systems that had been dead for decades flickered to life. Sensors started picking up distant asteroids and debris. Small lights blinked across the control panels, and the engines let out a low hum. Ethan smiled as he walked through the corridors. "We are getting there," he said. "Just a little more." One night, while the crew rested in temporary quarters, Ethan stayed in the main control room. He sat before the old captain's chair, running diagnostics, listening to the hum of revived engines and watching the flicker of lights across the panels. He imagined the Ardent flying again, faster than ever, its weapons ready, and its systems working in perfect harmony. He knew it would take months to fully restore the Starship. There would be setbacks, broken parts, and long hours of labor. But Ethan did not fear failure. He believed in humans in a way that no alien crew member could understand. To him, ingenuity, persistence, and courage were more powerful than any technology alone. For the first time in decades, the Ardent was not abandoned. It was alive, and it was Ethan's dream to awaken it fully. The weeks passed slowly, filled with hard work, repairs, and careful observation. The alien crew began to respect Ethan, seeing him not just as a mechanic, but as someone who could understand the language of machines in a way no one else could. One morning, a small alarm went off in the control room. Ethan ran to the sensor panel and saw a flicker on the long-range scanner. "Something is coming," he said. The alien crew looked worried, but Ethan's eyes sparkled. "It is a chance to test our progress," he added. For the first time, the ship's dormant systems responded to his commands. The shields activated, engines purred, and the weapon bays opened slightly. The Ardent was responding. Slowly, carefully, Ethan realized the impossible. He was bringing the ship back to life. He leaned back in the captain's chair, looking around at the ship he had chosen to save. Dust covered the floors, lights flickered unevenly, and many systems still needed repair. Yet he felt a thrill that he could not contain. "This is just the beginning," he whispered. Just the beginning. For Ethan Blake, the abandoned Starship was no longer a forgotten vessel. It was a challenge, a puzzle, and a future weapon waiting to be reborn, and he was ready for every moment of it. Ethan Blake woke early that day. The faint hum of the Ardent's engines filled the control room, a sound that had once been silent for decades. He looked around at the corridors, the dust, the broken panels, and felt a spark of excitement. Each step he took reminded him how much work still remained. The first task of the day was the propulsion system. The main engines had been badly damaged, and most alien salvage crews would have considered them beyond repair. But Ethan was not most humans. He believed that with patience, skill, and creativity, any system could be revived. He called the crew together. "We start with the engines today," he said. "I need every hand to help with basic support tasks. I will handle the main repairs myself." Jalen nodded, though still unsure about Ethan's confidence. "You really think you can fix those engines?" "They've been dead for 50 years. Ethan smiled. "Not just fix them, I am going to make them better than they were." The alien engineer Kale tilted his head. "Better, humans are ambitious. I like this, but be careful. The engines may not like your plans." Ethan did not answer. He moved toward the engine room, carrying a small toolkit, a few replacement circuits, and his favorite wrench. The engine room was vast and dark, with cables hanging like vines from the ceiling. Rust covered much of the metal, and the smell of old fuel and oil filled the air. Ethan ran his hands along the pipes and conduits. He could feel the faint vibrations of the old system, almost as if the engines remembered how to run. "They are tired," he whispered, "but they are not gone." The first step was cleaning and inspecting. Ethan carefully removed corroded pipes, replaced damaged fuel injectors, and wiped the grime from the main power conduits. He worked slowly, testing each section, checking for leaks, and listening for unusual sounds. The crew watched silently, amazed at his focus and patience. After hours of careful work, Ethan began the rewiring. He combined old alien designs with his own human engineering methods. Some wires were connected in ways no manual would suggest. Some circuits were replaced with hybrid versions that improved efficiency. He explained each step to the crew, hoping they would understand his method. "This is not just repairing," he said. "We are teaching the ship to run better, faster, stronger." Kale watched closely. "You are not following standard procedure. Humans are strange." "Yet I think it will work." By evening, the engines responded to his commands. They purred softly, a low vibration through the floor as if the Ardent were stretching after a long sleep. Ethan smiled. "That's it for today," he said. "We have made progress." The next morning, Ethan focused on the navigation systems. The old computers were outdated, many chips melted or corroded. Most would have given up entirely, but Ethan saw potential. He removed broken components, cleaned delicate circuits, and installed human-designed processors that could work alongside alien systems. Jalen peered over his shoulder. "This seems risky. What if the new chips conflict with the old systems?" Ethan shook his head. "The ship does not mind new ideas. It only responds to care and understanding. Watch." He powered on the navigation system. Screens flickered and blinked. The sensors came to life, showing nearby asteroids, debris fields, and distant planets. The Ardent could see the universe again. The alien crew whispered among themselves. They had never seen a human mechanic work like this. Humans were usually cautious and relied on machines to do most of the work. Ethan relied on his hands, mind, and intuition. Slowly, respect replaced their fear. Ethan then moved to the weapon systems. The old plasma cannons were rusted, and the targeting computers were offline. Many parts were missing or broken. Ethan climbed into the weapons bay, studying the mechanisms carefully. He designed new targeting circuits, repaired the cannons, and even added small improvements he had learned from his own experiments. "This will make them faster and more accurate," he explained to Jalen. "Better than they were when the ship was new." By the third week, the Ardent was no longer just a derelict starship. Lights stayed on consistently, engines hummed steadily, and weapon systems were responsive. The corridors were still dusty, but life and energy flowed through the ship again. Ethan began exploring ways to improve efficiency further. He reinforced weak sections of the hull with hybrid alloys scavenged from nearby asteroids. He upgraded life support systems, creating a backup oxygen supply that could last months. He even modified the ship's drones, giving them better movement and autonomous repair functions. The alien crew began to follow his example. Kale worked on secondary systems, Jalen assisted with engines, and a small group repaired panels and circuits throughout the ship. Yet Ethan remained the heart of the operation, always inspecting, always adjusting, always thinking of ways to improve the vessel. One evening, a small problem arose. A section of the engine conduits began to overheat. The crew panicked. "We need to shut everything down," shouted Jalen. Ethan shook his head. "No, we need to guide it. Watch carefully." He moved swiftly, adjusting the flow of fuel, rerouting power, and reinforcing weak pipes. Slowly, the overheating stopped and the engines stabilized. Kale looked at him in awe. "You can feel the ship's pain. Humans are strange. You are part of the machine, yet not part of it." Ethan smiled. It is alive in its own way. You cannot rush it. You cannot force it. You have to understand it. As repairs continued, Ethan began to imagine what the ship could become. He saw the Ardent flying faster than any ship in the Orion Belt, dodging attacks with clever maneuvers, firing weapons with precision, and surviving situations no ship should survive. He started designing small enhancements. He modified the engines to allow short bursts of extreme speed. He improved shields to absorb more energy. He even added emergency escape protocols that would protect the crew in dangerous situations. Each improvement was small on its own, but together they made the Ardent stronger than it had ever been. Weeks passed, and the transformation was remarkable. The ship's corridors, once empty and lifeless, were alive with movement. Lights blinked in patterns, engines hummed, and the weapon bays glimmered with new power. The alien crew, once skeptical and fearful, now worked with pride. Ethan never stopped thinking. Even when the ship was quiet at night, he walked through the halls, checking every panel, every wire, every pipe. He talked softly to the ship as if it could understand him. "Soon you will fly again," he said, "and when you do, no one will ignore you." One afternoon, a distant fleet of rogue pirates passed near their location. The Ardent's long-range sensors detected them immediately. The alien crew tensed. "They are far away," said Jalen. "We do not have weapons ready. What if they come closer?" Ethan walked to the control panel. "They are far now, but soon they will be near. That is why we prepare. We are not just fixing a ship. We are making a machine that can survive anything. Let them come. We will be ready." He activated a small test of the weapon systems. The plasma cannons hummed, the targeting computers locked on, and the drones moved into defensive positions. The alien crew watched in disbelief. "You have made this ship alive," Kale whispered. "It moves as if it knows." Ethan smiled. "It is learning. It responds to care and skill. That is the difference humans bring. We do not only repair, we teach the machine to be better." That night, Ethan sat in the captain's chair, looking at the stars through the control room windows. The Ardent was no longer abandoned. It was waking up, stronger and more powerful than it had ever been. He thought about the future. He knew there would be battles, challenges, and dangers ahead. But he also knew that humans had a gift no one else had. The ability to see potential where others see only ruin, and the courage to take risks others would not dare. For Ethan Blake, the Ardent was more than a ship. It was a challenge, a friend, and a symbol of what humans could achieve. He had started with a derelict starship, broken and forgotten. Now he was creating a machine that could change the balance of power in the Orion Belt. And he was only getting started. Ethan Blake woke to the soft vibration of the Ardent's engines. The ship no longer felt dead. It hummed with energy, a slow heartbeat that seemed to match his own excitement. Today he had planned the first full systems test, a trial that would push the ship to its limits. The alien crew gathered in the main control room, their expressions a mix of nervousness and curiosity. "Are we ready?" Jalen asked, his voice tight. Ethan nodded. "We are as ready as we will ever be. This is not just a test. It is the first step toward making this ship what it is meant to be." Kale, the insect-like engineer, moved toward the tactical console. "You humans are brave or perhaps foolish. I do not know which. But I wish to see this machine in action." Ethan smiled. "It is neither brave nor foolish. It is preparation. Watch carefully. The Ardent will show you what it can do." The first step was simple, activating all engines at full power. Ethan checked the fuel flow, power conduits, and navigation systems. The Ardent shuddered as the engines roared to life, a deep vibration that shook the floor. Lights along the corridors blinked in rhythm with the engines, and even the smallest drones stirred, moving as if testing their new legs. "Impressive," Kale whispered. "The humans have made a machine that can wake from death." Ethan ignored the praise. He was focused on the ship. He activated the sensors and long-range scanners. The asteroid field nearby provided the perfect obstacle course. "We will start with maneuvers," he said. "I want to see how well the engines respond and how stable the ship is." The Ardent lifted from its docking bay, gliding slowly at first. Ethan guided it through the field, weaving between massive rocks and smaller debris. The ship responded perfectly to his commands, turning smoothly, accelerating without strain, and adjusting shields automatically to deflect impacts. "Look at that," Jalen said, a mix of awe and fear in his voice. "I did not think it could move like this." Ethan smiled. "It's not just moving, it's learning. Watch the shields, watch the thrusters. Everything adapts when you give it care and precision. For hours, Ethan pushed the ship through tight maneuvers, increasing speed and testing engines. The Ardent held steady, performing better than any human or alien ship in the fleet. Every twist, turn, and acceleration showed not just the ship's strength, but Ethan's understanding of it. After the maneuvering test, Ethan moved to weapon systems. "Now we test targeting and response," he said. Small drones scattered around the asteroid field acted as moving targets. The Ardent sensors locked onto each drone, calculating speed, distance, and trajectory. Ethan activated the plasma cannons. The drones were hit with perfect precision, each shot neutralizing its target without wasting energy. The alien crew gasped. "It is incredible," Kale said. "The machine knows exactly where to strike." Ethan shook his head. "It is not the machine alone, it is human guidance. Humans see possibilities machines cannot. We adapt, we anticipate. That is why the Ardent can do this." By evening, the testing was complete. The Ardent had passed every challenge, moving with speed, precision, and power. Yet Ethan was not satisfied. He knew that true tests would not come in empty space or controlled scenarios. Real danger awaited in the universe, and that was when the ship would prove itself. That night, while the crew rested, Ethan stayed in the control room, examining the long-range scanner. A signal flickered across the display. He focused, zooming in. It was a small pirate fleet moving fast toward their sector. "They are near," he said quietly. The alien crew awakened at once, tension rising. "How many?" Jalen asked. "5 small ships," Ethan replied. "They are rogue pirates, not very organized, but we cannot underestimate them. This is the first real test." The crew scrambled to stations. Kale prepared weapon systems, Jalen monitored engines, and small drones moved into defensive positions. Ethan checked every panel, every circuit, every system one last time. The Ardent hummed with readiness, its lights steady, engines glowing warmly. The pirates entered sensor range. They fired warning shots, small plasma bursts that fizzled harmlessly against the Ardent's shields. Ethan leaned forward, his hands moving over controls with precision. "They think we are defenseless. Let's show them otherwise." He activated the ship's countermeasures. Drones shot out in coordinated patterns, intercepting incoming fire. The shields adapted dynamically, shifting power to the areas under attack. The pirates fired again, but their weapons barely touched the hull. "Human ingenuity," Kale whispered, clearly impressed. "It is not just the ship, it is the mind controlling it." Ethan smiled faintly. "They do not expect humans to fight this way. That is the advantage." The Ardent counterattacked. Plasma cannons fired in rapid succession, disabling one pirate ship after another. Ethan used a mix of evasive maneuvers and carefully calculated targeting. The pirates tried to coordinate, but their small fleet could not match the Ardent's speed, precision, and unexpected strategies. One pirate ship attempted a surprise attack from behind. Ethan anticipated it. He rerouted engine power to the rear thrusters, spinning the ship and firing a plasma shot that destroyed the incoming vessel. The alien crew stared, unable to hide their amazement. "Do you see?" Ethan said. "It is not just firepower, it is thinking, anticipating, and adapting. That is human advantage." By the time the engagement ended, all 5 pirate ships were disabled or destroyed. The Ardent floated in the asteroid field unscathed. Its systems were stable, its crew unharmed, and its weapons still ready. Jalen approached Ethan, shaking his head. "I have never seen anything like this. I thought the ship was old and useless. You made it a weapon no one can match." Ethan nodded, but he was calm. "It is not about weapons alone, it is about understanding. The ship responds to care, to intelligence, to anticipation. Humans have that skill in ways no machine or alien technology can replicate." Kale, usually quiet, moved forward. "You are correct, human. The pirates underestimated the machine and the mind controlling it. You have made the Ardent alive. It is no longer abandoned." Ethan smiled faintly. "It is awake, and it will only get stronger." After the battle, Ethan guided the ship back to a safe orbit near the asteroid field. He checked every system, running diagnostics to ensure nothing had been damaged during the engagement. The engines purred steadily, weapon systems cooled, and the shields remained strong. The alien crew was quiet, processing what had happened. They had never seen a human mechanic achieve such results, turning an old, abandoned starship into a machine that could outmatch a small fleet of pirates. Respect for Ethan grew with every passing moment. That night, Ethan walked through the ship's corridors alone. He touched the panels, the engines, the weapon bays, speaking softly. "Good job today. We survived. We proved something important, but this is only the beginning." He paused in the main control room, looking out at the stars. The Ardent floated silently, its systems alive and strong. Ethan imagined the future, exploring uncharted sectors, facing unknown dangers, and showing the galaxy what humans could do. He knew there would be more battles, more tests, and more challenges. But the first real test had proven one thing: human ingenuity could turn even the most abandoned starship into a weapon of legend. As the night passed, Ethan sat in the captain's chair, reviewing the events. The ship had responded perfectly, anticipating maneuvers, adjusting shields, and firing with precision. But what truly amazed him was how the crew had changed. They were no longer scared. They were no longer skeptical. They had become believers in human skill, patience, and creativity. Ethan realized that the Ardent was more than a machine. It was a symbol that humans could take what others considered worthless and make it powerful. That humans could see potential where others saw ruin. That humans could turn fear into strength. He leaned back in the captain's chair and let out a quiet breath. "We have much work to do," he whispered. "But today we proved something important. The galaxy will remember this ship, and it will remember what humans can do." Outside, the stars twinkled, quiet and distant. But within the Ardent, energy flowed, systems hummed, and the ship waited for the next challenge. And Ethan Blake, human mechanic, was ready to guide it through anything. The first real battle had passed. The Ardent had proven itself. But Ethan knew this was only the beginning. More challenges would come, more enemies would appear. And when they did, the Ardent, guided by human skill, courage, and ingenuity, would be ready. Ethan Blake woke to the soft glow of the Ardent's engines. The ship felt alive, stronger than ever. Every system hummed perfectly, every light shone steadily. The first real test had passed, but Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was full of threats, and the Ardent would soon face its greatest challenge. Reports came through the long-range sensors. A rogue alien fleet, larger and more organized than the pirates they had fought before, was moving into the sector. They had heard stories of the human mechanic and the revived Starship. Now they wanted to destroy it before it became a real threat. Jalen looked worried. "Ethan, this fleet is big. Are we ready?" Ethan checked every panel carefully. "We are ready. This is why we rebuilt the Ardent. We will show them what humans can do." Kale, standing at the tactical console, studied the approaching ships. "They underestimate you, human." "That will be their mistake." Ethan nodded. "Let's prepare. Every system at maximum readiness. Engines, shields, weapons, drones, everything must be perfect." The crew worked quickly, following Ethan's orders. The engines glowed brighter, ready for rapid movement. Shields activated fully, forming a protective barrier around the ship. Weapons systems calibrated, plasma cannons and kinetic disruptors primed for action. The drones moved into formation, ready to defend or attack as needed. Ethan took the captain's chair and ran through the strategy. The alien fleet had numbers and size on their side. But humans had something else: creativity, adaptation, and the ability to improvise. Ethan smiled quietly. That would make all the difference. The first wave of the enemy fleet reached firing range. Ethan did not panic. Instead, he used the Ardent's speed to their advantage. The ship darted between asteroids, weaving unpredictably. Plasma shots from the enemy fleet struck shields, but the energy was absorbed and redistributed, keeping the ship safe. "Impressive," Jalen said, eyes wide. "I have never seen shields work like this." Ethan smiled faintly. "They respond to thought and care. Watch the cannons. They will strike exactly where needed." The Ardent fired in perfect coordination. Plasma beams hit enemy engines, disabling several ships instantly. The drones moved in, intercepting missiles and projectiles. The alien fleet tried to reorganize, but the human tactics were unexpected. Ethan anticipated their moves, guiding the ship in ways no algorithm could predict. One alien commander tried a surprise attack, sending a fast strike ship behind the Ardent. Ethan had seen it coming. He activated the rear thrusters, spun the ship, and fired a plasma blast that destroyed the incoming ship. The alien crew stared in disbelief. Kale whispered, "Humans, they think in ways we cannot predict." Ethan leaned forward. "That is why humans survive. That is why humans adapt." The battle continued for hours. The alien fleet was strong and determined, but they could not match the Ardent's speed, intelligence, and adaptability. Every move Ethan made turned their strength into weakness. Every attack he anticipated allowed the ship to respond perfectly. During a short pause, Ethan studied the tactical displays. Several enemy ships were regrouping, preparing a coordinated strike. He knew they could not let them combine forces. He devised a bold plan, a feint maneuver to lure the enemy into a narrow asteroid passage where their numbers would work against them. "Listen carefully," he said to the crew. "We will bait them. They will follow us into the passage. There they cannot turn easily, and we can pick them off one by one. Stay sharp." The Ardent accelerated, moving predictably at first. As expected, the enemy fleet pursued. The asteroid passage grew closer. The narrow space limited the alien ship's movement, forcing them to bunch together. Ethan activated the enhanced weapons systems, plasma beams cutting through the first few ships with precision. Jalen cheered. "It's working. They can't move properly." Ethan nodded but remained calm. "Stay focused. This is only the start." The alien fleet tried to counter, firing volleys of missiles. Ethan activated the drone interceptors. Drones flew with perfect timing, destroying every incoming missile before it could hit the ship. The shields absorbed stray energy, and the Ardent remained unharmed. Kale's antennae twitched in amazement. "The humans have turned a trap into a weapon. Brilliant." Ethan guided the ship carefully, weaving between asteroids while targeting enemy ships one by one. The Ardent moved like a living creature, fast, precise, and deadly. The aliens had expected a normal battle. Instead, they faced a machine guided by a human mind, unpredictable and clever. Hours passed. The alien fleet suffered heavy losses. Several ships were disabled, drifting silently among the asteroids. Some fled, unable to match the Ardent's strategy and firepower. By the time the battle ended, only a small fraction of the enemy fleet remained. Ethan slowed the ship, running diagnostics. Every system was intact, and the crew had performed perfectly. The Ardent had survived its first true battle, stronger than ever, and had proven that humans could turn even an abandoned ship into a legendary weapon. Jalen approached Ethan, shaking his head. "I cannot believe it. We just destroyed most of that fleet, and we didn't lose a single ship. How did you do it?" Ethan smiled. "It's not just the ship, it's humans. We think, adapt, and find solutions no one expects. The Ardent responded because we understood it. That is the difference." Kale moved closer. "I have seen many fleets, many strategies, but never have I seen a mechanic guide a starship like a commander. Humans, you are extraordinary." Ethan looked out at the stars. The battle had been dangerous, but it had proven something important. The galaxy had begun to notice. The Ardent was no longer a forgotten ship. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, courage, and determination. The next days were quieter. Ethan spent time repairing minor damage, reinforcing shields, and upgrading systems further. Each improvement made the Ardent stronger and more capable. But more importantly, he focused on training the crew to work together, teaching them human tactics, improvisation, and creative problem-solving. "Humans do not fight like machines," Ethan explained. "We do not follow predictable patterns. We adapt, we think, we surprise. That is how we survive. That is how we win." The alien crew listened, fascinated. They had never encountered such tactics. Slowly, they began to adopt the human methods, combining them with their own technology. The Ardent became more than just a ship. It became a living example of cooperation between species, guided by human insight. Weeks passed, and word spread. Other fleets, both human and alien, began to talk about the human mechanic who had revived an abandoned starship and turned it into a battle beast. Rumors traveled faster than light in some sectors. The Ardent became a legend. One day, Ethan received a communication from a distant human colony. They had heard of his success and asked for his help in defending their systems from pirate attacks. Ethan smiled. "It seems our work is not done," he said. "The galaxy still needs us." The crew prepared for a new mission. The Ardent systems were ready, the weapons primed, and the engines capable of extreme speed. But Ethan focused on something more important: strategy, anticipation, and teamwork. The ship was powerful, but the human mind guiding it made it unbeatable. As the Ardent left orbit, moving toward the human colony, Ethan looked at his crew. They were tired but confident. They had seen what humans could do, and they believed. "Today," Ethan said quietly, "we protect those who cannot protect themselves. We show the galaxy what humans can do, And we do it together." The crew nodded. They had seen the impossible, survived battles against odds, and witnessed human ingenuity in action. Now they were ready to follow Ethan and the Ardent anywhere. The journey ahead would not be easy. There would be pirates, rival fleets, and unknown dangers. But Ethan knew one thing: humans had the skill, courage, and creativity to overcome anything. And the Ardent, once a derelict starship left to rot, had become a battle beast, legendary across the stars. As the ship moved through the darkness of space, Ethan felt a quiet pride. He had taken what others considered useless and turned it into something extraordinary. But he knew it was not about pride. It was about proving what humans could achieve when they believed, adapted, and refused to give up. For the first time, the Ardent's corridors were alive not just with movement, but with purpose. The ship and its human crew were ready for anything. The galaxy had underestimated humans once. Now they would never do it again. Ethan leaned back in the captain's chair, watching stars pass by. "This is only the beginning," he whispered. "We will face more challenges. We will see more battles, and each time humans will rise and the Ardent will lead the way." The legend of the abandoned starship was complete. It had gone from forgotten and rotting to unstoppable and feared. And at its heart was a human mechanic who refused to accept limits, proving that ingenuity, courage, and persistence could change the course of the galaxy. The stars stretched endlessly before them. The Ardent glowed with energy, a symbol of human strength. Ethan Blake smiled. Whatever the universe had in store, humans would face it, and the Ardent would be ready. And so, the ship once left to rot became a legend, its story spreading across star systems. Humans had shown what no one else could. They turned fear into power, abandonment into life, and a forgotten starship into a battle beast. The Ardent moved forward, unstoppable, guided by human hands, human courage, and a mind that refused to quit. The galaxy would never forget what humans could do. A deserted starship left to rot, until a human mechanic turned it into a battle beast.